पील पुलिस के ऑफिस में लेके जाना चाहते हैं, जहां से डिप्टी चीफ निक मेलानोविच हमारे साथ होंगे. Yes, Deputy, good afternoon, sir. This is Arifa. How are you?
Very well, thank you, sir. How are you?
I am very good. Thank you very much for being with us. This is Deputy Chief Nick Malana, Chief, Peel Region of Police. I thank you very much for your time, and I understand the South Asian community, and especially the areas where we cater or people listen to us. Of course, they want to listen. They are concerned. My first, once again, first of all, thank you very much for your time, though. One thing, what is the rise in crime, the thefts? What would you say? And I believe the crime and thefts are all over Ontario, but sometimes certain areas are stigmatized, and that's what the Brampton is. Would you mind to tell us about thefts, break-ins?
No, absolutely. I'd happily chat about that. And, no thanks necessary for being on the show. The thanks belongs to you for having me on it. I do appreciate and enjoy every opportunity I have to speak about these topics. And, you're 100% right. The majority of the issues, let's say, take, for example, if we talk about auto theft. Mm-hmm. Auto theft, at one point, Peel was experiencing levels of auto theft that were higher than other jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. But it's because of what Peel is. We're a logistics hub. We have a large community here. There are spaces with very affluent communities. And it just, for the same things that draw our residents and our community to Peel are also found attractive by some of the organized crime groups that were targeting us. Mm-hmm. So, Peel does not, and Brampton does not necessarily experience levels of crime any differently than other places in the province and in the country for that matter. And, auto theft is a prime example of that.
Absolutely.
That was a national issue. It wasn't just a Brampton issue.
Right.
It was, a countrywide issue that we needed to deal with and are still continuing to work on.
Understand. That's great, and of course, I let me tell you, I'm a very strong advocate for that, because anybody who tells me, and I said, just take out the statistics. Theft is even in Vaughan. You go to the Vaughan. It's been said that 6-digit salary people live there, but still thefts and all problems, break-ins are there in Markham, of course. So it's all over Ontario. Thank you very much. But what do you feel that it's a national crime at the moment, and of course the whole Ontario, but you represent Peel? How do you justify it and just say that there must be extra precautions in certain areas, and the crime is all over Ontario? What are the reasons in your mind for that?
Yeah, the reasons that I think are causing some of our biggest community safety issues are, there's similarities in a lot of those. There's gaps that occur in each one of those concerns that are the same gaps. Mm-hmm. And, I would give, for example, we could talk about auto theft, or we could talk about violent crime where firearms are used. One of the immediate things that you need to begin to look at are, how easy is it for people, organized crime groups, to either import or export stolen property or firearms into the country? Of course, they make their way back to local jurisdictions, and, that becomes a problem that we end up having to deal with. And you can apply this anywhere, but, I think probably because most of your viewers will understand it, I'll use auto theft again. So, when we started experiencing auto theft at record numbers, it became obvious that something was going on. And the first thing we needed to do was enhance our enforcement efforts. We did that. We've more than doubled the size of our auto theft unit. We have one of the largest auto theft units in the country here in Peel. And, we're arresting and charging more people than we ever have. And we're having some success. Last year, we were down just over 12%, 14% This year, in the first quarter alone, auto theft has dropped by 45%. So to give your listeners some perspective, that represents $60 million in fewer cars being stolen in 1 quarter of 2025. And I can tell you that while the enforcement piece and all the work that we've done there has helped, it didn't stop with that. We've spoken to provincial, to federal government officials, to industry leaders, to really all of the stakeholders looking for gaps and spaces where more needed to be done so we could enjoy some of the benefits of reduced levels of auto theft like we are now. And it was pretty obvious to start with. Cars needed to be harder to be stolen, and it needed to be more difficult to export those vehicles out of our country for resale. So those are areas that we focused on and encouraged partners to become engaged in, but as the police service, we couldn't direct. But we could lead work and lead conversations in those spaces, and that's what we have done, and I think it's also why we're seeing some of the auto theft rates drop. But I also want to reassure your listeners, it doesn't mean the work's done. A 45% reduction over all-time highs, not just here in Peel, but across the country, is it's good movement, but it's also indicative of the amount of work that remains to be done, and that's something we're going to continue to do.
Thank you very much. And I would say our police is very good. I understand it's very easy for the people to criticize something, but my police officers in the area, they are doing their level best to protect the residents, and nobody should mind these things. We must cooperate if police officer stops you. That's what I feel. But my question, one of the question over here is that when we talk about the governments at the provincial level and at the federal level, of course the fundings are needed. Recently these political parties, they also promised that they need to hire more people with the police. But I am afraid the technology is totally changed. Artificial intelligence has taken over so many fields. I believe, do they provide, and do you ask the government to provide more funding to have those latest services where technology can be a part? Our officers and the people should not be at risk, and those who drive fast must be stopped by the technology. Is there any way that department is working on that and asking the federal and provincial government to fund more towards the technology?
Yeah, definitely. We will welcome and look for any opportunity that we can find in order to help subsidize, or take advantage of funding opportunities. And, the provincial government does fund a number of our current programs and some of the strategies that we do have in place now. But, we will always welcome additional funding opportunities. Specific to the conversation around technology, that's something that's moving very fast. And it is something that needs to be incorporated into future strategies. And our police organization has done a variety of different things to begin planning for that, but it also has to be done responsibly. Technology is available. We need to incorporate it into our day-to-day to become more efficient, but it can't be at the risk of, people infringing people's own privacy and personal rights. So that's something that we definitely pay attention to as we develop and enhance our technology abilities and the processes and different programmings that we'll use.
Thank you very much. I am talking to Deputy Chief Nick Milinovich with me from the Peel Region of Police. And again, on behalf of all my community, I thank you very much for your time. I understand technology, if we use in our departments, when certain people use, they cross the limit and they get into someone's privacy. Whereas when our departments use, they definitely look after those things. Do you look after the crimes, cyber crime as well? Because most of the people are victim of the cyber crimes. do is the department is hiring more securities, intelligence security, where those who get the emails. There was a time we used to get these cold calls with 88 number or some numbers from outside, but now thieves and scammers are so bold that call from 416 and 647 area. Do you have any
Sure.
thing to protect it, so that we should not be the victim of over on our email? We should not be a victim of the phone calls where old people they become the victim.
Yeah, no, we do. So, we probably approach that in a number of different ways, specific to, what we're doing online, because you've kind of flagged two different things. Of course, a lot of times fraud begins with online contact. And, we do have a fraud bureau that is staffed with specialized fraud investigators. And then we also participate with our provincial and federal partners when we see things like that are happening outside of our jurisdiction, or the people responsible for them are living outside of our jurisdiction. We'll work with our partners to help identify them. But and then there's the whole cybersecurity piece, which is, are we talking about ransomware, malware, those types of things? And traditionally, those are more frequently directed to businesses and government organizations or systems. And we do have a cybersecurity team that investigates that, and in fact is very, very well thought of and regarded of in that world. And once again, we work with our federal partners and even other partners internationally to help address and respond to things like ransomware attacks, et cetera. And then, the other thing that I would like to highlight too, because I also think it's important, what we're talking about is an evolution of life, really, from the way that I maybe knew it growing up to a more online presence and like some of the risks associated to online. We also have an internet child exploitation unit that investigates the online exploitation of children and those types of offenses. Once again, very, very busy unit, well regarded and crucial to keeping our community safe, particularly our priority populations, in this case, our younger community, from people that are looking to take advantage of them.
Thank you very kindly. And of course, do you ever bring it in the federal and provincial government's notice that I understand the rights of those who are arrested for the thief, for child pornography and all these things? What are the punishments? Because these guys, police arrest them. They do such a long, lengthy work. And these guys, they know that they can be out after the bail, and they do exactly same things. Are you taking any measures, or should people have a peace of mind that our police department is trying to bring some reforms as well, so those criminals who are caught, they must have a kind of punishment which can stop them from the crime?
Absolutely. So, we have, and at the beginning of this conversation, I talked about certain gaps that I believe exist in some of our most frequent crimes here that exist in all of them. Bail reform absolutely is one of them, and the topic around bail, who should get bail, when it's appropriate. That is definitely something that as a police service we have flagged, have brought forward and made recommendations, and continue to work with our provincial and federal partners on addressing and responding to, because it is a problem. We're not saying everybody should be held indefinitely, but, there's a small percentage of people that are responsible for a large percentage of our most egregious and violent crimes. And that's the reality of it. If, you can find, a person responsible for a series of crimes and say to yourself, oh, of course, he's out on multiple releases, he's already subject of a variety of different charges, and it should have been obvious that he was going to reoffend, and we see that frequently, then definitely it's something that we need to address. So we have been advocating on behalf of the community and our police service for changes to that current system. We do that similarly really with all of our priorities. So much of what of the, I guess, issues that we experience in the community, there are gaps that are contributing to those issues and making it lower risk and higher reward for criminals to take advantage of our communities. So when we identify that, we'll go to whoever is responsible for making that change and advocate on behalf of our community for them to make changes so that it can be better. And, I've seen our chief at a national federal auto summit explain to the then prime minister what he thought the issues were in auto theft. We've done that provincially and federally, and we'll continue to do that because we really are here to represent the interests of our community and share that with whatever political representation can help us address and respond to those gaps.
Thank you very much. And I know when we sleep at home, we know our police officers are out there on the road for the protection of the people. And once again, I would say that if a police officer stops you, stop, listen to him, answer his question. That is for our security. When I came to Canada around 30 years ago, there was we used to see a sign, Community Watch. So community was also contributing towards something. But nowadays, how do you involve the community? Because I have seen where people in the streets, they complain that there are drugs sold here. But of course, police also has its limits. They cannot go to someone's home because they don't have actual proof. What would you recommend in that scenario?
Yeah, I think, in that scenario, if it's specific about drugs or like unwanted persons in your neighborhood, of course, give us a call. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, then please, there's other opportunities for you to do that. We have Crime Stoppers, that is an anonymous line that people can call. They can either call or online make that complaint, and it's something that we'll investigate. But like in terms of, you mentioned Neighborhood Watch, some of that has evolved now, right? Like what we see probably more frequently are like online community groups where people discuss these things, will share concerns, share information, get to know one another, and bring those things forward to us. So, we're always looking for opportunities there. But yeah, it really just comes down to communication. If there is a concern, if you see something, then say something.
Thank you very kindly. You spoke very nicely, and of course, Community Watch is still there, but there must be some place where you can contact if you have any issue. Please contact those departments. Would you mind to share any link where people can share their concerns about the cybersecurity? They can forward those emails to that department. Is there any department for that, or they can inform what is happening in their community?
Absolutely. So, you know what? I would direct people because there are a couple of different things there. If you go to our website, peelpolice.ca, you'll see that there are a number of different spaces that once you navigate through the website, you could select from that menu board of what you want to report or what you're looking at educating yourself about.
Thank you very kindly, sir. It's so good to talk to you, but my humble request, it's not that I am promoting something, but I mean it. The South Asian community is in, great number here. They are growing by leaps and bounds, the South Asian. They speak Urdu, Punjabi, Hindi, and other languages. I request the Peel Police should also stay in contact with them. They feel more comfortable, radio and television. It doesn't cost anything. They spend, we are in the evening with the people in their cars, in their homes. My humble request is do give us a chance to promote the police message and the message for the community in their own languages as well. Anything else would you like to add up towards the end?
No, absolutely, and it's a great suggestion. I would love to bring, we do have officers that speak a variety of different languages, and,
Great.
I always think it's can completely understand. I'm from a 2-language household myself, so happy to do that maybe the next time we chat, and I would just say thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. This is Deputy Chief Nick Milinovich, Penal Department, and I request everybody, you do cooperate. This police is our police. While we sleep, they are awake for our protection. Thank you very kindly, and I hope the crime must be controlled. There was a stupid question which I wanted to ask, because when somebody break into home, he has more right on me. So how can I protect myself?
Yeah, no, that's a common question and conversation there. The reality is you are allowed to use an appropriate amount of force to protect your home, yourself, and your property. But the difficulty becomes ascertaining what that appropriate amount of force is.
Exactly.
And that's where people find themselves in trouble. So, again, my recommendation would be call police. We have and are adding to our numbers. We've dropped substantially the wait time for our emergency calls and are going to continue working on it. And, we have people that are trained specially to respond to those situations. So,
Thank you very much, boss. Thank you very kindly. Deputy Chief, you took out time in your busy schedules. Thanks a lot. God bless you. We'll talk to you again. It's just a request. You don't need to answer, but please communicate in the language over the radio and television. Women are working at home. They are listening your message. I thank you very much, sir.
thank you very much
God
for the
bless you.
opportunity.
God
Thank you.
bless you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.